Town Studios podcast, brought to you by Creative Foundations and us, the people of Creative Foundations.
Hey, welcome to our podcast with our special guest, Mayor Mavis of Mount Vernon. We have a video on site. Enjoy.
How did you become mayor?
Well, this is an elected position, so you have to, the steps to get your name on the ballot so people can vote for you, or you have to get a petition signed. In other words, you have to go out and knock on doors and get people to sign the name saying that they would support you on the ballot. So then you file that with the Board of Elections, and there's a fee. You have to pay a fee to get your name on the ballot, but once that is done, then you have to enter a primary election. Sometimes there's opposition to that, sometimes not, but then you'd go to the general election in the fall. And in the general election, usually there's just one other candidate because it's two major political parties, and we do run on partisan politics. Township trustees and villages don't run Democrat or Republican, but we do. And so, after the election, if you have the most votes, then you win. And in my term is a 4-year term. And so I've been mayor. I'm in my 5th term, so I've been here 17 and a half years.
How do you like being mayor of Mount Vernon?
You know, I tell people that I never had to work a day in my life because I've liked every day I've gone to work. Prior to being mayor, I was county commissioner for 20 years, and prior to that, I was a school teacher for 10 years. So I liked all the jobs I've ever had. I've had some businesses on the side, but I liked those also. But I like dealing with people. I like seeing our community improve. I like getting things done, and so I like it very much.
Okay. What is a typical day for you?
Typical day for me, I know, would be boring in most categories for people that work in other jobs, because I'll come in the morning and I have a day's agenda. So in many cases I have meetings, many cases I'm on the phone. I told somebody I get about 10 or 12 phone calls a day. I probably make about that many. And then I have meetings in between. And then occasionally I do a marriage. I did a marriage this morning. We do about between 50 and 55 a year. I've done 1,025 since I've been married. So in between the meetings and the phone calls, we work in a marriage and that sort of thing. So the typical day pretty much is on the phone, in meetings, working in a marriage here and there.
Do you have future plans for supporting Let me correct that. Do you have future plans for supporting development or disabilities in Mount Vernon?
You know, much of the things we do have to do with zoning, and I know that we had a church up in the north end that was being sold. The people were going to build a new church, and so we had a business come in and wanted to buy that as a training facility. And so there was a zoning issue. As it worked out, we have a planning commission. Zoning issues are generally dealt with through planning commission process, and it was rezoned, so they were able to buy the church. And I believe, I haven't been up there, but I think that they're running a kind of a training business up there. Also, you know, there's with supportive living now. Supportive living is a new thing which I very much support, because I think it's pretty much promotes a normal life for people that have disabilities. So we try to make sure that there aren't any governmental blocks that keep those from happening. So I don't, when it says do you have future plans for those are, whether I'm mayor or somebody else is mayor, we try to set the tone so that we don't create any what I call blockades for making sure that the people with disabilities make sure they don't have any roadblocks.
What was the most difficult challenge of being mayor you've had?
Well, I thought about that. That's certainly a good question, but I think the most difficult challenge of being mayor is making sure that that we keep everything moving ahead. You know, I've always been an advocate I've been an advocate of the idea that you're either moving ahead you're standing still or you're moving backward. The city has to move ahead. That's what we are all about, is moving ahead, making sure our projects are done. We usually plan projects during the fall, winter, and spring, and then we do the projects during this construction season. So we're doing a lot of projects this season. But I think that's a challenge of being mayor, making sure that everybody knows that we must work harder and longer and to make sure these projects get done. And altogether, it makes Mount Vernon a better place.
Are you planning to run again in the next election?
Well, that's a fair question. Since I've run 5 times, actually, the first time I ran for mayor, I got beat. I lost the first election, but I've won since. And I'm getting older, and I told people the last time I ran that probably the idea of me running again was not guaranteed. I know some people will be happy about that. They want to get rid of me. Other people will be maybe a little sad about it. But I think at this point, I've told people that I don't have a plan to run again. I've still got a year and a half to make a decision on that because I have 2.5 years left in this term. So the last year you have to run. So I've got some time to finalize that. But for the most part, I believe I'm going to be too old. But maybe that'll change. Maybe my mind will change.
Okay. Who is the most interesting person you've met as mayor?
You know, I thought about this since I had the questions early. I thought about who I would name on this one. When I was still commissioner, Gerald Ford, who was former president, he came over to Kenyon, and I was able to go over and have dinner with him. And really, it was a great conversation. But more recently, I had to put in Karen Buchwald Wright, who runs the Ariel Corporation out there. And the reason I say that is because Karen is, they have over 1,000 employees. They have customers around the world. But Karen has a real feel for Mount Vernon, Ohio, and she has a vision for that, and she's got the money to put into that. So when we talk about benefactors to our city, Karen is one of our top, or is our top benefactor. She's given money for such things as the water park, Foundation Park, Mount Vernon Nazarene University, COTC. All those things have helped our downtown area, our parks areas, and our trees. She's given us thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to plant trees, build sidewalks, and do that sort of thing. She is an interesting person because she's more than just her business. You know, she's running a huge business out there, but she also has time to talk about what we need to make our city a better place.
When can we get a handicapped parking spot in front of Creative Foundations?
Well, that presents a problem. I'm glad you asked the question because it's not an easy one answered for us. First of all, it's on a main street there, and parking places are at a handicap. I'm for handicap or difficult. For instance, across the street, the Alcove wants us to free up 2 spots so they can have people to pull in and get out and be convenient for their customers. Here, for right in front of your Creative Foundations down there, we'd have to make a ramp. To be a true foundation, you have to cut out a spot on one side or the other of the vehicle, so it takes really more than just one spot. And the good thing was that just down to the corner there is a ramp there, so you get wheelchairs up and that sort of thing. So we have been reluctant to create a handicap parking spot because for you, it would take more than just a spot there. It would take up an extra spot on Main Street. And we thought that down at the corner you can load, and that's a no parking area right there, so you can get in and out of there. I'm sure it's not as convenient, but right now it lets us free up the main parking spaces on the main street there. So we don't have a plan for that, although we know it's requested, and so we continue to have it on our as part of our study plan for downtown.